Hello, and this is Patrick from Heavy Therapy,
This is Cody from Metal Miners.
and we are back to do part two of our favorite albums of the year so far. And I believe Cody is up.
Yes, sorry about the internet getting cut out there, folks. Hopefully, we can rally here on the second half. Let me go ahead and get started. Um, this next band is Finnish black metal entitled Vaterium or Volterium. Um, this is their self-titled full length in 2022. Um, I believe I mentioned earlier before I got cut out that my good friend at our Oregonian Hunger posted this, I believe, on Instagram, and I just fell in love with that cover. Absolutely brutal, true cult. So I had to check it out. And it's a really interesting listen. I will say it is a little monotonous at times. The riffing kind of is cyclical, I guess I would call it. Um, it's kind of like one of those trance listens where almost like Transylvanian Hunger, where it's kind of meant to be that way. But like Transylvanian Hunger, it works. Not necessarily, putting this on the level of Transylvanian Hunger, just that it uses that same sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, tempo and things like that. Kind of get you like entranced in the music a bit. There are some really good synth parts on this as well. I believe my favorite, I want to say, is in Barbaric Triumph, the first track. Um, but all in all, this was a really good release. Came out April 4th, 2022. Um, and yeah, that is Volterium's self-titled, their first full length. And I am excited to see what they do after this.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah, I know what you mean by the repetition that
Yeah,
Transylvania Hunger has, but yeah, it works, right? It works. It that is obviously thought through and deliberate. So that's cool to hear that, Rotarium.
yeah. Actually, I have been listening to. I'm not sure if you know the band Mork.
I don't
It's
think so.
a Norwegian black metal band, um, but it's a one man band by this guy named Thomas Erickson, and he does like a podcast. Well, he started a podcast during COVID, and he interviews like all the big wigs in like Norwegian black metal, and I think he's even going to like Death Doom now and stuff. But
Right.
um, from Fenriz was saying he had an interview with Fenriz, and he is basically saying like the reason about that monotony or that kind of entrancing thing that is so prevalent on Transylvanian Hunger is just because that no one had done that before.
Hmm. Right.
So it was kind of like this new thing in black metal, I guess,
Yeah.
to kind of just that have that repetitiveness to it, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
And like I said, obviously it's not on the level as
Right.
Transylvanian Hunger per se, but it's still a really good release and
Awesome.
still has those kind of themes to it.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I think I am at number four, and this is a sort of avant-garde, like psychedelic death metal band. They're called Black Death Cult. Um, this album is titled Diaspora, and they're from Canada. And I believe it came out, excuse me, on Profound Lore. And I always like what Profound Lore puts out, but never heard of this band until this year. I think they have one other full length, and yeah, it's just they're a five piece, including a full time keyboardist. And like I said earlier, I'm actually quite picky about keys and synth, and it can ruin a good album for me. It just has to be layered and mixed appropriately for my taste. And this band, Black Death Cult, and their album Diaspora does that for me. The vocal approach is like a combination of low gutturals mixed with these weird banshee-like howls. I believe there's some horn section that comes in a tiny bit, but again, I'm picky about that. But it all blends in pretty well, and the heavy parts, the heavy death metal parts, are quite heavy, sort of like that Zompantli band that I mentioned earlier. But it's kind of like, I don't know if you know, Cody, but it's kind of like Vastum. If Vastum meets
Okay.
Void Ceremony meets Dipagus, like if they were like, yeah, like on an acid trip. Like it's very strange. I do think it is like avant-garde psychedelic death metal. I haven't heard anything like it before. And yeah, Black Death Cult Diaspora is my number 4 choice.
Nice. So next up for me, I have my first Dungeon Synth
Nice.
Title here. What I've begun to notice is as I go further and further down the Dungeon Synth like tag on Bandcamp, a lot of these I don't know if you call them bands or projects or what have you. They don't have metal encyclopedia pages. So for this and another one that is going to be after this, I'm going to have to relay to their Bandcamp page. So this is Dark Creations by Dragon King. You can get a good look at that cover. I love that cover. And this is basically what the music sounds like.
Right.
It is medieval in nature, and that's things that I am always been into. And typically, if it's medieval, I'm just gonna like it regardless if it's good or not. But this is actually really good. Eon is probably my favorite track. Track 4. I mean, what can I say? I've listened to this so many times I can't listen to it anymore on Bandcamp
Right.
on my phone. Um, I'm rereading the George R. R. Martin A Song of Ice and Fire novels, and I found this pairs really well with that reading. So that's a lot of what I've been doing as far as like Dungeon Synth goes. Is just kind of having that in the background and reading, and it definitely creates a certain vibe.
Right.
And I thought it goes really really well with A Song of Ice and Fire.
Okay.
So if you're interested in anything mystical, medieval, I would definitely check this out. I mean, there's no such thing as kind of you know tough listening dungeon synth. Um, the furthest thing in that regard is a project that I mentioned in one of my videos a couple weeks ago, where it's more like militant, but this is definitely more low key and kind of just kind of gives you those,
Is it ambient?
yeah, I would say it's like dark ambient, I guess. Um, it's described as dark fantasy music inspired by Forgotten Realms,
Right.
which sounds about right. And they're from the Netherlands. Um, of course, it's hard to find much about these projects without there being a metal encyclopedia page. So you're kind of just reduced to whatever's on their Bandcamp. Um, but yeah, that's Dark Creations by Dragon King. If you ever find yourself wanting to, listen to something while you're reading, I would definitely give this a listen for sure. Or if
Nice.
you're playing video games, something like that. Anything where you don't have to, be an active listening.
Right.
There's lyrics and something I feel like I have to be actively listening. But if it's just like an instrumental, I feel like I can kind of just vibe to it a little bit. And that's
Yeah.
definitely the case with this release.
Okay. Cool. So I have this is my number 3. I believe it came out early in the year. It came out, it came out January 14th. And I've been listening to it since it came out. And this is a extremely strange black metal project from Belgium. They're called Wagadude, and this album is called "There's Always Blood at the End of the Road," and extremely aggressive, acerbic black metal that members of Amun Ra are in this group, and which is like a post doom kind of sludgy band. But it's uh, I've never heard tremolo played as fast as this band plays it, and it's almost so fast where you're like, it just I had to I had to go back to track one as soon as I heard the first track of the first time, and I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like, it sounds like the record was, like they hit fast forward on the tape or something. But then I
Hmm.
realized, no, like this is just really fast, slick tremolo picking, but extremely like, yeah, extremely uh, aggressive, kind of like spectral voice or spectral wound. I forgot which one now. But yeah, just extremely hard to describe a really brilliant drumming performance. Very high pitched vocals that are layered in the back. It's not instrumental, but for me, this album is kind of that way too. I can just put it on, and um, it's strangely soothing and calming to me. Except whenever I do put it on headphones, and I realize how crazy it sounds. But it just really sits well with my mind. But really talented bunch of musicians playing, yeah, really aggressive black metal, maybe kind of like 1349, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, yeah, I can't really describe this album that well. Just extremely fast picked black metal. Thralls of Metal has a good review of it. I think they gave it a pretty high score too. So yeah, the band is Dude, and the album is called "There's Always Blood at the End of the Road."
Nice. You had me at 1349.
Okay.
It's probably one of my.
It's probably not a great comparison, but as far as like how fast and
Yeah.
blistering, probably uh, it sounds right to me, but it's probably not going to sound exactly what you're imagining. But yeah, you should check it out. It's definitely really top tier black metal.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Um, next up for me is a band that seems to have kind of like a cult following in the underground black metal, at least. Whereas there's not much known about this band. For instance, if you click on the members, none. The only thing really known about it is it's Swedish, and it's black metal. It's definitely more melodic black metal. But I'm talking about Nocturnal Triumph, self-titled. This came out January 12th, 2022. I actually saw this posted so many times on the black metal vinyl Reddit that I had to check it out, and really thought it was just really well done black metal. Um, it's really like meat and potatoes black metal. As far as it doesn't go to reinvent the wheel, um, but that can be a good thing as well, because when something's done right, it's good.
Right.
So I'll give you a better look at the cover here. Really intriguing
I
cover,
like
I
the
think.
cover. Yeah, I like the cover.
Um, the green looks really, really good on the LPs that I've seen
Right.
so far. Um, it's kind of darker, I guess, but the image looks really nice. I really want to get this actually. I believe they have them on Nuclear War Now has
Okay.
a few copies left over. So I'm when I get my paycheck, that might have to go to this.
Right.
But like I said, there's really not much known about this band. Um, they've got three full lengths, and like I said, they're from Sweden, and that's really all that's known about this band. Um, but if you're someone that really likes to stick, kind of into that second wave
Hmm.
sound, I would definitely give this a look see, and that is Nocturnal Triumph's self-titled.
Nice. So I am going to share my screen, and my number two pick is a death grind band from Tennessee, and they are called Knoll. And
I think I've heard of this band actually. I want to
yeah,
say so.
Knoll are insane. So I had the pleasure of seeing them live at a venue here in St. Louis that they had no business playing at, and that came from the vocalist's mouth after I met him after the show, because they had like, there were way too few people there. Noel deserved a bigger crowd, but they had some, like, that venue here has some of the best sound I've ever heard. And yeah, Noel is this crazy ass death grind band, and they're a bunch of young kids. And uh, one of my favorite bands is Full of Hell, and I've never heard a band that sounds like Full of Hell as much as Noel, and it's an extreme compliment coming from me. But they're also still, you can tell they're developing and turning into their own beast. This is their second album in just 2 years. Decibel put their debut from last year onto their top 40 albums of the year, and that's how I got acquainted with them last year. But uh, crazy ass vocalist Jamie can do, low gutturals, extreme highs, and he does this weird mid range uh, screams, growls on this record that he didn't have on the first record, but very just uh, claustrophobic, uh, antisocial, uh, almost anti-music. uh, but it's not noise, right? It is death grind. Tons of riffs, tons of drum fills, tons of music, but it is the opposite of commercial. And yeah, Knoll. The album's called Mentemporic, and one of my favorite newer bands that I've discovered over the last few years, and it really sits well with me. But yeah, if you like Full of Hell, if you like death grind, uh, then I think you'll like Knoll.
I think the reason I might not know this band, but maybe you saw the merch. Do they have a Dolly
Yes.
Parton? Okay, gotcha. I thought I recognized the band, and I knew I saw that Dolly Parton like Death Grind shirt. I was like, that is super sick.
Right.
Uh, so that's definitely worth checking out just for the shirt. Um, But yeah, let me share my screen, and I will share my next one. Um, so this next one is a split. I'm not typically listening to splits all that often, but this was a really good one. Um, it's got a black metal heavy hitter. I'll start on this side. I was less familiar with Ebony Pendant. Um, in fact, I'd never heard of them before the split. Um, and this is Plunar Requiems. Ugh.
Right.
And it's a Lamp of Murmur Ebony Pendants split. Obviously, Lamp of Murmur has made a huge name for themselves in the underground, and rightfully so. Very talented. All of their stuff is really good.
Right.
And I will say, when picking which side I liked more, it was really difficult, honestly. Um, I thought going into it that Lamp of Murmur was we're going to run away with it,
Right.
but Ebony Pendant held their own, and they've got a new fan out of me for sure. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to the rest of their stuff. Um, that being said, I still think Lamp of Murmur is a little bit stronger on their side. Um, but definitely, if you kind of like the new, I don't know what you'd call it, like I guess the new wave of like underground black metal, where it's kind of divergent of the traditional black metal things, I guess, where it's
Right.
got more of a romantic hinge to it sometimes, or it's got like more punk vibes to it, or even something like Old Nick, where it's got like these crazy, weird synth parts and this really like fun and upbeat um, nature to it. These aren't like Old Nick. That's not what I'm saying, but
Sure.
it's in that same vein of kind of just being different than what the '90s might have held in high regard for black metal. There's definitely, in my opinion, this kind of new wave of these bands coming up. Keta Rock comes to mind with the kind of romantic style black metal. And yeah,
So,
this is it's just really strong split, I would say. And it came out March 24th, 2022. Um, I don't know of any physical copies that I've seen. Um, I've found about this on Bandcamp.
okay.
Um, I didn't see any physical copies, um, though perhaps they're out there. I'm not quite sure. Like anything with Lamp of Murmur, though, I'm sure it's impossible to get. And if you do want to get it, you're gonna have to pay an arm and a leg. So if you want to get it, have your checkbook out. But it is definitely worth listening to at least, if not buying. I would suggest.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually only really familiar with Lamp of Murmur out of all those you named. I think I learned about Old Nick from your videos actually. But would you say would it be blasphemy to call some of that post black metal, or do you think it's more appropriate to say it's like a new wave of black metal?
Um, when you say post black metal, I my automatic thoughts go to like kind of like shoegazy stuff,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and I wouldn't say it's in that vein. I would say I don't know. Generally, when I think of black metal, I think of black metal as like evil,
Right.
and having like evil atmosphere and things like that. Not to say that these bands don't have some sinister sounds to it, but I think the sound is kind of it's dark, but it's a little more. It's got a little more light to it, I guess. I
I got
guess.
you
And,
said
and
romantic. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, a lot of these bands are very different. Like something like Old Nick, I wouldn't. I mean, it's almost joking in a manner, like picking at itself, which drives a lot of black metal purists crazy,
Right.
because they like to think of themselves very seriously. Um, so anything that's kind of divergent from that, true cult, burn the church,
Right.
don't let anybody listen to your stuff, they're going to get up in arms about. But me, I am more open minded to this kind of, like I'd call it, new wave of
Sure.
black metal, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. So my final release so- is something that I have to show on the screen as well because the vinyl is on a delay and they are not arriving yet. So I am talking about actually a collaboration, full length between a band called Thou and an artist named Mismer, and the album is called Myopia. And this is a
Awesome cover art.
very very good cover art. This is why did that happen? So yeah, this is mostly post black metal, uh, doomy, uh, heavy as hell album, and that is what Thou and Mismer do on their own usually. Very cathartic. I feel very cathartic when I listen to this kind of stuff. Slow tempos. It's not funeral doom, but definitely it can test your patience if you want fast tempos. Uh, the drumming can be uh, is quite hard, which isn't the same as fast, right? But it can definitely it can take the place of the speed that you might want with just these hard hammering percussive moments. Yeah, Thou and Mismer. Mismer's from Portland, Oregon, and Thou are from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Uh, just yeah, post doom, post black metal, sludge. Uh, this album hit me instantly. I think it's a masterpiece. It's my only 10 out of 10 of the year from the way that I see it in my head. But yeah, it's an hour plus hour 13 minutes of music, and it's not something that I still put on all of the time, but every time I do, I find it perfect still. Um, if you like slow moving, heavy, cathartic, uh, yeah, mostly doom, sludgy music, then check out Thou and Mismer's collaboration full length called Myopia. Those are my albums.
Awesome. All right, so last one for me as well. This is going to be another Dungeon Synth release. And then, like the previous example, no Metal Encyclopedia.
Hmm.
So I'm reverting to Bandcamp. This is Book of the Black Rose by Dark Rune, released July 19th, 2022. So just last week. This is, let me just show the cover. I mean, once again, this is indicative of what it's going to be. If you're into this kind of stuff, you're going to be into it. If you're not, you're not. I think my dad calls Dungeon Synth elevator music,
Right.
so he's certainly not going to like this, which is fine. I really enjoy it. This not so medieval. It's more fantasy. Like it says in the description, we write Dungeons and Dragons books with an old school look and feel. We want to make synth music that accompanies our fantasy, and this does exactly that. I've only played D&D a few times, but I would certainly throw this on if I was playing that. And then similarly to the last Dungeon Synth album I showed, I like to listen to Dungeon Synth when I'm reading, and of course, A Song of Ice and Fire. It's based, roughly during medieval times, but it also has that fantasy aspect to it, and this kind of comes in handy with that as well. So this is a good vibe for it as well. I believe my favorite tune here is His Shield Lies Across the Stone. Very good track. So, like I said, typically you either like Dungeon Synth or you don't. So this isn't going to be one of the things that's going to change people's minds. But if you enjoy the genre, I think you'll really enjoy this. So check out Book of the Black Rose by Dark Rune.
Awesome. So I have a question about Dungeon Synth. So some Dungeon Synth artists are on Metal Archives, right?
Right.
And some aren't. And obviously I know probably what that means, but what to you, why are some Dungeon Synth bands not on? Is Dungeon Synth metal?
Ooh, that's a good one. Is Dungeon Synth metal? I want to say yes, but I feel like it's not.
Okay.
I'll give both my reasonings. So I want to say yes because it's clearly, it clearly started as a subgenre to black metal. With the guys like Mortiz and the other fellow who should not be named, rhymes with Flarg. It seems that it starts in a place where it tries to create like this atmosphere and this ambiance of dark and foreboding, hence Dungeon Synth, being stuck in a dungeon. With that being said, with the rise, of computers and video games and things like that, you have these soundtracks to these video games, these RPGs, things like that. and so I think you get another group of people who want to consume this genre of music who don't necessarily come from a metal background.
Right.
Um, and in turn, obviously, you have people that make this music that aren't making it, with metal in mind. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a subgenre of dungeon synth called comfy synth,
Okay.
and it has no bearance on any sort of dark atmosphere. It's literally made for you to chill. It's like it's just chill ambient music.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess my answer is going to have to be no. I don't think it's metal. I
Right.
think um, I think it's ambient, and you have dark ambient.
Is it
And,
is it extreme music? I guess not the comfy stuff, but is it extreme music? Uh,
um, I would say no.
okay. There you
I
go.
think my argument here is, if I'm driving in the car
Mm.
with my mom or my sister who are not into extreme music, I can play this and get, no lip. It's not like,
Right.
what are you listening to?
Hmm.
It might be weird that I'm listening to, not pop music, and then I'm listening to, this weird kind of ambient music, but it's not going to, um, for example, I listened to a Dying Fetus song, From Womb to Waist, with my mom in the car,
Right.
and just from the beginning, she was like,
Sure.
"What is this?" And then they started singing, and she was like, "This is like the devil is talking." So
Right.
that's what I think of when I think of extreme music. It's going to have that kind of extreme reaction to it.
Right.
I think that with this, with Dungeon Synth, you're not going to get that. I think you're going to maybe get some, like, what is this?
Right.
Um,
It might be
but
weird, right? It might be weird music, but not extreme.
that's exactly what I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so, I mean, if you know someone that enjoys video games and enjoys soundtracks and things like that,
Oh, yeah.
they'll probably really like it.
Okay.
Um, so I don't think it's necessarily metal
I
anymore.
got you.
I think it's kind of open to the public now. I
Right.
guess
Yeah, that was
not to
insight.
say that metal isn't, but there's kind of
It's not as right.
it's like sipping a fine wine. You can't just go into Gorgoroth. You gotta sip some
It's
lesser wines. Get your palate there.
some
If
dungeon
that makes
juice.
sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so to anybody watching this, still thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what some of your favorite albums were um, so far of this year, and any further thoughts, Cody?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good discussion. I like that there was no overlap.
Yeah.
Um, Especially in these kind of year-end, midway year lists. Um, I don't know how you kind of go about finding new music, but when I was kind of looking at, the big, not so much YouTube channels, but um, what is a big like Metal Hammer or something like
Right.
that, like the big, like, I guess,
Revolver.
magazines, or yeah, and they kind of just all have the same, kind of like top 10 and things like that.
Right.
Um, I think once you get really further into the underground and you kind of get people in all these different nooks and crannies, I think that's where you can kind of, find new music and see what people like and see what people, kind of don't like as
Right.
much.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, obviously, a good example is me and my dad. He listens to death metal religiously. I'm more of a black metal guy. Um, and, we're father and son. So
Right.
I think it's cool that, these things kind of happen, that people can talk about, especially these kind of lists that
Right.
people do. I think it's really cool just kind of putting out what you like and hopefully getting the artists some revenue that
Yeah,
is
for
sorely
sure.
needed.
Yeah, for sure.
especially with everything going on in the world now. People need their money more than ever. So if
Yeah,
you like anything that we've put out, um, I mean, I'm a broke man myself, so I haven't bought any of the items that I've showed, but I do plan to change that. So, I mean, look at the stuff that we're telling you to look at.
yeah,
If any of it seems interesting, give it a listen. And if you really find it interesting, throw them a few bucks. That'll definitely make
yeah,
their day for
exactly.
sure.
If you want to keep hearing underground, extreme, heavy music, you have to support them. If you're able to. If you're not able to, of course, um, then you don't have to. But we're all we have, I think, is that like the metal community has to support itself. There are some bigger labels, but none of them are major labels, and we should go to shows. We should buy merch. We should buy music whenever we have the funds available to. But yeah, this has been fun, and thanks for watching. And I will see you all soon. Bye.
And thank you for having me, Patrick.
Yeah,
Pat set this all up, so big shout outs to him. Hopefully, we can do this again sometime. Perhaps I can even see if I can get my dad in the loop, take him
yeah,
to local Starbucks or something.
right.
Make sure we're
Yeah,
there.
thanks for doing this, Cody. This is fun. All right.
Yeah,
Bye,
I had a good
everybody.
time, man.
You
All right,
too.
see you, man.
All right. Bye.